And thank you for joining us for the second half hour of The Factor Uncensored. The now suspended police chief at the Atlanta VA Medical Center Police Department making national headlines tonight. Audio recordings from 2023 of Chief Beverly Banks have been released. She can be heard saying or making it clear she does not want to hire minority female officers, particularly black females and Hispanic females.
I am to the point, I don't want to hire black women no more. I'm to that point. I ain't got no white women beating my door down to come in here and work, but I wish they would, because I don't have these problems. I don't have no Hispanic women. Hell, I don't want them either. Because you know what comes with it? A whole lot of attitude, and I don't want it. I'm the only one with the attitude in this place, me.
There have been complaints in the past about favoritism and sexism at the Atlanta VA Medical Center Police Department, dating back to before Chief Banks took the job in 2022. My next guest shared their thoughts on her comments. And joining us now on The Factor Uncensored to discuss this case out of Atlanta, we have with us Greg Dupree, former law enforcement officer who is now into private security and, of course, working with other law enforcement agencies around the country. And we have with us Rael Williams, one of our commentators here on The Factor. So first of all, let's deal with what we see on the surface, Greg Dupree, when we talk about Chief Beverly Banks at the VA, the Veterans Administration in Atlanta. What she was caught on tape saying, your thoughts on that? Should she be terminated for that? Should she be investigated? Should she be suspended for that?
She should be afforded due process for her comments. And at the end of that due process, she should be terminated. Because anyone with that type of discriminatory attitude, whether they're white, black, or otherwise, that makes those type of inappropriate, unprofessional, and offensive comments does not deserve to be chief of any law enforcement agency.
And Greg, do you ask yourself, what did she think, or how did she think she may have been special to say these things so publicly?
Well, she probably works in or worked in an environment where it allowed her a certain level of comfort for her to be able to make those type of remarks. If you notice in the story that some of her subordinates were suing her for sexual harassment and other offenses that were going on in the department that evidently she was tolerating. So in that meeting, she was probably with some of these individuals who were being accused or who were being named in the lawsuit. So she felt fairly comfortable about making those comments.
All right. And Rael, your thoughts on her comments on the surface and what we see in the investigation?
Yeah, I think that, what she said, if you look at it and don't look at it on the surface, you got to dig a little bit deeper. I think that, she has a point, with African Americans being so passionate behind what they believe and passionate behind what they do. You can even see this in sports and just in general music. We're very passionate people. She probably had some prior experiences with African Americans that didn't turn out too well, which makes her to say that I don't want to have those type of people working for me. Now, I don't think it's right necessarily that she's going to judge everybody that's African American based on their what she's experienced in the past. However, I do believe that it is something to consider when you're hiring somebody. If you've had a lot of bad experiences with one particular race, it's going to cause you to make judgments based on whether or not you want to deal with those particular people or not. So I just think it's a matter that, deserves a little bit more scrutiny and, people to look more in depth into it.
Obviously, it is now public and it is causing her a lot of problems. People are saying, well, you cannot say that about black females. Mm-hmm. And your thoughts on that, Greg Dupree? And not just black females, Hispanic females.
Hispanic female as well. Yeah, I think that, everyone has their own personal opinion, but you can't bring that into the job place or into the workplace, especially when it comes to hiring. If she's bringing that type of attitude or that type of discriminatory attitude into the workplace around her hiring practices, there's no way that a black female or a Hispanic female would ever have a fair shot at getting a job under her administration. And that's wrong. So as I said, she can have those type of, she could have had a lot of bad experiences, working with black females or working with Hispanic females, but you can't make a blanket statement like that against a group or groups of people and use it into determining who you're going to hire for the job.
And Rael, do you agree with what Greg is saying there?
No, yeah, I completely agree that you got to give everybody a fair shake. I mean, I'm African American. If you don't give everybody a fair shake, then you won't give me one either. So I think everybody deserves a fair shake. However, I do believe that if she has had a lot of experiences with that particular gender or race or whatever, that, it's going to cause some level of discomfort when you're dealing with that same particular issue. So I think that she should evaluate it case by case. If she notices in the interview or in the hiring process that there's a little attitude present, maybe she should, move on to another candidate. But I don't think that she should make a blanket statement that all black people are all, Hispanic people are not worthy of being hired. I don't think that's right. But yeah, I do understand her feelings.
And of course, we'll continue this conversation after the break. It gets interesting. Don't go anywhere. And welcome back to The Factor Uncensored. Continuing coverage now, following the controversial claim from the police chief of the Atlanta VA Medical Center Police Department. Chief Beverly Banks says she doesn't want any black or Hispanic officers, female officers, on her staff. Female officers. Now, according to her, they come with too much attitude. My next guests, well, they continue their discussion about this. And of course, when you say you understand her feelings, what would you say to the viewer who say that's still not right? You understand her feelings, but she can't paint a group of women, two groups of women, that being Hispanic and black, with broad brushes like that?
Well, I think you've got to go and look at the studies that have been done as far as anger management as it relates to Hispanic and African Americans. You can go and look at the Chicago Crowdy study, which did a study on African Americans and found out that African Americans have a lot more anger issues than any other race. You can go and also look at a Midas study done in 2015, where it was shown that African Americans have a huge problem containing their anger. Even Hispanic Americans, there's been multiple studies done on them as well. So like I said, I don't think you can make a blanket statement that anybody who's African American or Hispanic, can't be hired. I don't think that's true, but you've got to definitely use wisdom in hiring people when they have, they're predisposed to certain things. It's just, I think it's a matter of, her just, looking at everything case by case.
All right. We want to thank you.
Isaiah, could I interject something here for a second?
Go ahead, Greg.
Okay. First of all, let me say this, and I'm not basing on any study, but my own of having over 20 years of law enforcement experience with two different police agencies, where I worked with several black, white, Hispanic females, and I never saw that being an issue with black or Hispanic females, where their attitudes were worse than the other officers I was working with. Before I sat down to do this interview, I discussed this with my father. You can see his picture back up on the wall, who also has law enforcement experience, and he could not believe that someone would make a blanket statement like that as well. You have to think about something. By saying that this woman has some type of legitimacy in making this type of statement gives legitimacy to any officer, a white officer, for example, who could say, well, you can't work around black people because they're all crooks and they all need to go to jail. That's just not fair, and it's just not right.
All right. We want to thank you both for joining us with your perspectives here on The Factor Uncensored. Thank you, gentlemen.